Time got away from me, I guess. But like I said, I was in town and didn't want to leave without saying hello. Harmony, you know that I'm always a phone call away. We can go to lunch, see a movie, whatever you want. But we both know that's not why you're really here. You weren't in the neighborhood, and this isn't a social call. I'm exhausted, so let's just get this over with. How much do you need, and do I want to bother asking why? Stace, I swear, it's not about money. She hitched her purse strap up a little higher on her shoulder and dropped her gaze to the wide wooden planks under her scuffed-up shoes. I've missed you. Ignoring her, I crossed the room and snatched my checkbook from a kitchen drawer. My tiny but chic condo didn't have a spare room to use for an office, so the kitchen pulled double duty. It worked well since I wasn't much of a cook. As long as I had a place to warm up takeout leftovers, I was all set. I flipped open the folio and scrawled my signature across the bottom of the first check. Glancing up, I pursed my lips. Last chance, Harmony. Her confident smile wavered, and then fell entirely. My heart stilled for a moment at the flash of despair reflected in her eyes before they flitted back to the floor. I set aside the checkbook. What's going on, Harmony? Jess and I broke up. Who's Jess? Last thing I knew, she'd been seeing some punk rock shifter named Orson, who made me feel old any time I spent more than 5 minutes in his self-entitled orbit. My boyfriend? Harmony scoffed, before quietly adding, well, my ex-boyfriend now. I kind of figured that part out, I replied. I meant what happened to Orson. I thought you were on tour with him or something. I was, she frowned, until I caught him cheating with a backup dancer. I cringed. They're engaged now, Harmony added, her voice small. That's when I met Jess. She plunked down on the sofa as though the mere thought of telling the tale sapped all her energy. I didn't know the particulars, but considering this relationship had to have lasted less than 3 months, I couldn't fully understand what was so devastating about its demise. Then again, I hadn't been on a date in over a year, so what did I know? After leaving the tour, I took a job working as a cashier in an apothecary, she started, drawing me away from the edge of my own murky pool of dating memories. Jess worked there too, doing his apprenticeship. It wasn't the best job. The owner always smelled like cabbage. I glanced at the silver clock hanging above the stove. It was creeping up to 3:30. I had to be awake in less than 4 hours to get ready for work. Harmony, cut to the chase. What does any of this have to do with you coming back to Seattle? Right. Well, about a week ago, Jess and I were putting in some overtime, doing inventory and stuff like that. We started goofing around and, well, we kind of had this competition. You know, see who could make the craziest potion. He made one that he swore would make whoever drank it start quacking like a duck. I made one that would make the person smell like gummy bears for a week. I blinked. You were getting paid for this? Well, that's kind of the problem. She drew in a quick breath. Mrs. Maddie, our boss, the one that smelled like cabbage, came back to get something and found us messing around with all the supplies. We'd made a bit of a mess. I mean, we were going to clean it up, of course. She frowned at me and continued. She started railing on Jess for being a bad influence and fired him on the spot. Imagine that, I muttered. I snapped at her, telling her we'd come up with the idea together, and that if she wanted to fire Jess, she'd have to fire me too. She paused for a moment and then shrugged half-heartedly. So she did. It was a familiar story. Harmony had burned through more jobs during her 4 years in the workforce than most people did by retirement. For one reason or another, things always went up in flames. And usually the one holding the match was, in fact, Harmony. She was an unnatural disaster, and I'd learned a long time ago that I couldn't do much to help, beyond periodically bailing her out. Though that plan was running thin, too. Harmony drew in a steadying breath and raked her fingers through her hair. I thought Jess would be happy that I stood up for him, but instead he kind of turned on me. Started yelling about how he didn't need me fighting his battles and all this other stuff. I tried to apologize, but he took off and left me standing on the front steps of the shop with nothing but my final paycheck and the messed-up potions. She absently patted at her purse. So I hopped a shimmer bus yesterday afternoon and rode around for a while before deciding to come here.